In 1959, Nikon gained a solid reputation among professionals with the Nikon F. But in the meantime, Nikon also saw that the Asahi Pentax and other M42 mount cameras that were less than half the price of the Nikon F were successful with amateur photographers. To compete with them and attract people into its F-mount ecosystem, Nikon had to offer an F-mount camera in the same price range. Initially, Nikon delegated the manufacturing of this economical camera to Mamiya. Thus, the Nikkorex F was released in 1962. But this camera was not successful. It was also not up to the Nikon quality and reliability standards. So, Nikon internalized the design and manufacturing, then released the Nikkormat in 1965, thus starting a range of affordable cameras that would be enhanced and produced for 14 years from 1965 to 1978. I am personally a big fan of the Nikkormats. In fact, the Nikkormat FT2 is the 35mm camera that I use the most as a photographer. But why do I use an amateur camera instead of a Leica R4 or other higher-end cameras? There are multiple reasons that made this camera the perfect tool for me. Let's begin with the ergonomics. The Nikkormat uses the same shutter speed dial placement that the Olympus OM series would later use. Instead of being placed at the top of the camera, it is around the mount. The viewfinder is also great. It is large, bright, and displays very clearly the shutter speeds and the light meter information. Even if its shape is angular, the camera is very well balanced and pleasing to handle. It also feels very sturdy and inspires confidence. But the most convincing argument lies in its specs. Indeed, in terms of functionality, the only major difference with the Nikon F was the impossibility to change the viewfinder. Otherwise, the lenses were the same. The build quality is excellent. The camera is sturdy and reliable. The metallic blade shutter, which was quite advanced for its time, was performant and reliable. The speeds go up to the 1,000th of a second. It has a mirror lockup functionality. It has a through-the-lens light meter. It has a depth of field preview button. The Nikkormats were not beautiful cameras, but they do what they had to perfectly and never failed you. In fact, the term amateur is not faithful to what the Nikkormats were. I've used a Pentax Spitmatic from the same era, and despite being slightly more expensive, the Nikkormats are just in another league. Nikon simply achieved the remarkable feat of producing a camera that had the price of an amateur camera with the sturdiness and performance of a professional-grade camera. Now, let's look at some photographs taken with this camera. If you want to improve your photographic skills and learn how to take beautiful landscape photographs, you can visit ElectroCroissant and read the educational posts named Contact Sheets. The link is in the description. It is quite unfair to talk about the drawbacks of these cameras given their value for money. Still, the Nikkormats are not perfect. In terms of ergonomics, the angular shape of the camera is not the most pleasant for the palms of your hands. Having aperture settings displayed in the viewfinder would also have been a plus. More generally, the camera is quite boring. You won't get attached to it as a Leica Flex or a Nikon FM2, for example. Nikkormats are functional and sturdy cameras. They were not made to be exciting or beautiful objects. Nikon ceased to produce the Nikkormat in 1978. This range of professional but affordable cameras has not been continued by Nikon, but I would say rather split into two. One was the FM and FE series that were cameras sold at a higher price than the Nikkormats. The other one was an entry-level amateur range using plastic with later cameras like the Nikon FG. Both of these series left the big body of the Nikkormats for a more compact design. That being said, they were both less sturdy than the relatively fat Nikkormat. Nikkormats are still usable today. They will allow you to access the great Nikon F lenses ecosystem that has existed from 1959 to quite recently. One of the best things about Nikkormats is that they have stood the test of time very well, and unlike other cameras from the same era, you may not need any servicing before using them. To say it in the clearest possible way, the Nikkormat FT2 is the sturdiest camera that I've ever held in my hands. Some Nikkormats have a mechanical shutter while others have an electronic one. Only the first generations use Mercury batteries that are not produced nowadays and thus necessitate a battery adapter, while later models use SR44 batteries. In conclusion, if you want a reliable analog 35mm camera and that you are comfortable with having no automatic mode, the Nikkormats are made for you.